Hi, I am Matti Stenroos from Aalto University, Finland. In my talk, you will learn about a common framework for modeling electroencephalography and transcranial magnetic stimulation. Electroencephalography, EEG, measures the bioelectric field generated by the brain. Each EEG lead picks up signal from quite a large region of the brain. This is often called signal mixing. Here you can see how two neighboring electrodes pick brain signals. To unmix the signals and to interpret EEG in the brain frame of reference, we perform source analysis. In all source analysis techniques, the measured signals are projected on modeled topographies of elementary cortical sources. The topographies are computed using an EEG forward model. Here you can see example topographies of two nearby sources. In transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, a brief current pulse in a coil outside the head causes a time-varying magnetic field which induces an electric field in the brain, and this E field stimulates the cortex. To estimate where and how strongly we are stimulating, we use a TMS forward model. Here you can see a visualization of the E field inside the skull under a figure-of-8 coil. In TMS EEG, we use TMS and EEG together to study and potentially to treat the brain. In basic TMS EEG setting, we stimulate the brain using TMS and measure the response using EEG. We can also use EEG features for timing the stimulation and potentially for estimating where to stimulate. Forward models are used in TMS targeting and dosing and in EEG analysis. The conductivity structure of the head has a major effect on the electric field. The physics of interaction between the E field and changes of conductivity is the same for EEG and TMS. When building a forward model, most of the effort is related to modeling this so-called volume conductor. The level of detail of the used volume conductor model varies a lot. For EEG analysis, we commonly use a tree-shell model. Such a model can be constructed using, for example, field trip toolbox. The TMS community has traditionally used a spherically symmetric head model, but recently the use of highly detailed TMS models has become common in offline planning and analysis of TMS. Here I'd like to highlight the SimNIPS toolbox developed by Axel Thielser and his group. The geometry of the models you see in this talk is extracted from a SimNIPS sample dataset. In TMS EEG, the TMS and EEG models have been constructed separately, using different segmentations, levels of detail, and solvers. For example, it is common to target stimulation using a simple geometrical projection or a spherical model, and analyze the EEG with a realistic tree-shell model. Or, with today's common tools, one could model TMS using a high-detail model, but analyze EEG using a tree-shell model. If one goes through the burden of making a high-detail volume conductor model, one could use that model for both TMS and EEG. In the rest of the talk, I will illustrate how to do that. In an EEG model, the idea is to compute signal topographies for elementary sources in cortex. These sources are represented using current dipoles. Here is a y-directed dipole in location R1, and the surface potential it would cause in an infinite homogeneous conductor. We'll call this the primary potential phi p. The volume conductor effects are brought in by a linear operator t, and as a result we have potential on the conductivity boundaries of the head. This computation is repeated for all source locations and orthogonal orientations. The operator t needs to be computed only once. For a high-detail model, building T and computing potentials takes about 1 hour with my tools. Now place a tiny coil in location RC outside the head. With time-varying current, it produces electric field in the head. We divide this field to primary and secondary E. The primary component is the field induced by the coil in vacuum, and the secondary component is caused by the volume conductor. We see that the secondary E at R1 is computed with the help of phi 1. In other words, the EEG forward solution of a dipole in R1 is used for computing the TMS-induced E field in R1. Compared to solving the potential, all other computations are fast. In the previous slide, I illustrated how to compute the surface potential of one dipole and, using a tiny coil, one component of the E-field in the corresponding location in the cortex. To make a full E-field model, we just repeat the computation for cortical locations of interest and represent the realistic coil as a combination of these tiny coils. All potentials phi can be pre-computed. For each coil location, we only need to calculate coil-related integrals. This can be done very fast, even in real time. If you want to learn more about this, please see our publications. In summary, in TMS, forward models are used for offline planning and analysis and real-time navigation and dosing. In EEG, they are used for source-level analysis. The physics of how the head interacts with the E-field is the same for TMS and MEG, and the EEG forward model can be formulated as a part of TMS forward model. In TMS forward modeling, the EEG part is the laborious one, but it is independent of TMS coil parameters and can be pre-computed offline. For TMS EEG, a common modeling framework like the one presented here should improve the quality of experimentally used TMS EEG models while saving effort. Thank you for listening.